we celebrate decisions of faith. We celebrate baptisms. If it is possible, we celebrate more when those people who have been persecuted are strengthened in their faith, are come out the other end stronger in their faith.
Jesus never promised his followers an easy path. In fact, he told his disciples that the world would hate them. He sent them out as sheep among wolves. Jesus' words came true in the life of the apostles, and they're still coming true today in the lives of his followers around the world. Join host Todd Nettleton as we hear their inspiring stories and learn how we can help. Right now on the Voice of the Martyrs Radio Network.
Welcome again to the Voice of the Martyrs Radio. My name is Todd Nettleton, and we are connected across the miles today by the internet with Luke and Kate. Luke and Kate have served as gospel workers in the country of Myanmar, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about their call. Luke and Kate, welcome to the Voice of the Martyrs Radio.
Morning.
It's good to be here.
It is great to have you here. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Why don't we start out at the beginning? Can you kind of share, how did God call you to missions, to leave America, and then ultimately guide you to the nation of Myanmar in Southeast Asia?
We got there from very different backgrounds. Kate grew up in a very nuclear family. Mom and dad were around and had a heart for missions even from an early age. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I came from an unbelieving background. I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. I always knew with every fiber of my being that I wanted to be rich and famous. And so that was my motivation. And it wasn't until I came to know Christ that was redeemed for a greater purpose, and him calling me out to cross-cultural gospel work.
When we first got married and we first started going to school, I thought, well, Lord, if you tell us now where you're going to send us, we can do language and we can find the people, we can get ready, we'll be all ready, and then we can just go. Many of us, as children of God, we really like to make plans, but the Lord likes to keep us fixed and focused on him, not get our marching orders and run off with it. And so that's definitely what he did for us. He did not share that. He didn't tell us where we're going to go. He didn't even tell us what part of the world he was going to send us. I'm so thankful for that time because it broke down our need for all the steps to be laid out. And it broke down just that need to have our 5-year plan, or at least started to break that down. We're still working on that. Yeah. But the Lord gave us such beautiful opportunities. We went through Luke's medical school program and through my training we took month-long rotations overseas. And so we've done Guatemala, we've been in China, we've been to Thailand. And so everywhere we went thinking, okay, maybe this is it. He's going to tell us this time. Nope. But everywhere we went, he also revealed things about us, how he designed us, the personality he put in us, the giftings he put in us, and also just ways that are like personality, like what kind of cultures fit with our personality and what kind of things we needed just as individuals and as a family, as a married couple. And so it was so interesting to look back now and see the things that we learned in each of those places. Finally, how Myanmar came about is I had a classmate in school, and a guy that she was dating had been in Myanmar off and on over about 8 years. And so he said, I know you're looking for a place to serve. Come check it out. And we're like, I don't know. Where is this Myanmar? I've not heard of this place. And so he's like, no, come on. It's going to be great. It's near Thailand. And we went with them, and it was 2 weeks in country. And so we started in the big city of Yangon in the south, and we hated it. It was so many people, so many cars, just so busy, everything. We're from small towns in deep East Texas. Like, we don't do crowds. We don't, like, Dallas is pushing it. We don't really like it. So we were there, we're just like, Lord, no, please do not let this be it. And the guy was like, no, we're going up country. So we got on a bus. It was 12 hours overnight. I had to sit on this bus, and we got off in the morning at 4 a.m. in this little village place. And it was like the Lord said, this is it. This is home. This is where I want you. And for the next 3-4 days, we walked around. Y'all, it's rural. Like they've had no foreigners live there before our team got there. They've had they don't have grocery stores. They just had like no modern conveniences. Some houses had electricity at that time. They just gotten cell phones. But we walked around. It was just, we loved it. We fell in love with it from the beginning. But it was the Lord did that. The Lord very specifically called us there and put that love for those people in that village in us. And so every day we ask the Lord, okay, if this is it, what would a person of peace look like here? And by lunchtime, the Lord would have shown us what a person of peace could look like. And okay, Lord, if this is it, then how do they need medical workers? Would this even be something that they would value? And like by lunchtime, we had a village elder come and ask us, like, I'll buy your house if you'll just come and serve our village with your medical skills. So just everything we asked for, the Lord provided. We needed that very specific, very clear calling from the beginning to be able to endure the things that we've had to endure the past 8.5 years. If we didn't have that to hang on to, I think it would have been really easy to get lost in the chaos that followed.
We're talking this week on Voice of the Martyrs Radio with Luke and Kate. They have served as gospel workers in Myanmar. What does it mean to be a Christian in Myanmar, and how hard was it for you guys as foreigners to have a platform to be welcomed? I mean, it sounds like if the guy's ready to buy you a house, they were pretty open armed. Yeah. But how difficult was it to get situated there?
The culture is very welcoming. One of the most hospitable cultures that we've ever worked in. It took us at some point just being willing to start going to people's homes and sitting with them, and instead of just drinking tea and eating their sweet bread, starting a routine medical history of like, hey, tell me about your family. Like, do you have any sicknesses? Everybody's got their medicine hanging in a plastic bag on some pole in their house, so rifle through their medicines. Oh, I can tell you've got diabetes and hypertension. So, and then it became people come, we get to share about Christ, and people were hanging in the windows, wanting to hear what we're talking about, what the foreigners are talking about. So it can be uncomfortable to kind of be like this sideshow. It can be leveraged to your advantage in the sense of, now I've got 10 pairs of ears listening to this Jesus story.
Was there a lot of question by the people there? Why would you come here? Like, you're from America, you're a doctor. Why would you come to our little village at the end of the road in Myanmar? What are you even doing here?
Especially after the coup happened, everyone said, why did you stay? Why are you here? We're all trying to get out, and yet you keep trying to get back in. And so getting to share, like, not only is Christ worthy, but because of what Christ has done for us, we think you're worthy of our time and attention, of our love to be here. And we get to be here and physically show you his love in ways that no one else can right now.
We're talking this week on Voice of the Martyrs Radio with Luke and Kate. They have served as gospel workers in Myanmar. What does it mean for a citizen of Myanmar to become a follower of Jesus? What are they likely to face? What persecution is there? Where does it come from? Who are the persecutors? Kind of give us a spiritual overview of what it looks like to be a Christ follower there.
Well, first thing, that just the legal standpoint is, it is illegal to change your religion in Myanmar. And so
whatever you're born into, yes, you need to be that until the day you die.
It's put on your ID card, on your national card, as your religion. And you are not allowed, as a woman, as a Buddhist woman, you are not allowed to marry outside of your religion. And for them too, there's a significant number of minority groups in Myanmar. So it's not a unified country. It's not like mostly like China is, I think, like something 90% one people group. It's not like that in Myanmar. There's 135 different people groups, and they all tend to have their own language. They have their own culture and customs and clothing. They never wanted to be a unified people. They all have a saying: to be Shan is to be Buddhist. To be Palong is to be Buddhist. To be Burma is to be Buddhist. They don't separate the people group identity, the ethnicity, from the religion. To them, they're the same.
So where that comes into play also is, and I think a lot of us interact with refugees who are coming out of Myanmar, and the predominant refugees in the past 20, 30 years who've come out of Myanmar are either Rohingya Muslims, or they're going to be Chin, Kachin, Karen Christians. And those are people who are born into Christianity, who have made Christianity their religion, not necessarily Jesus as their faith. And so they are born into this religious system. And so for them to be Christian means I'm just following whatever my mother and father did. So therefore I am by blood not by faith, not by a
Mhm.
rebirth of the, by spirit and water. I am Christian just because my ancestors were Christian. So you talk about sharing cross culturally and talking with
Mhm.
people about Jesus cross culturally. There are times in different situations we may say, yes, we are Christian. Obviously, we don't deny that we are Christian, but even that term becomes loaded with a lot of extra biblical meaning for me, a Myanmar person.
Mhm.
To be a follower of Jesus, then we can flesh that out to a
Mhm.
certain degree. And even certain terminology that we use here in the States, like when we're talking about the free gift of eternal salvation through faith in Christ, that word free, when you try to translate that into Burmese, that word free, there is no differentiation between the word we use for free and the word we use for worthless. And so
Wow.
it becomes the worthless gift of eternal
Oh
salvation
my.
in Christ. So there has to be an understanding of the cultural and
Mhm.
linguistic nuances when we are sharing cross culturally.
Mhm. Yeah.
So for a Karen person who would be a traditional Christian, like their ID card would say Christian.
Mhm.
And
That's
so if they were going to church, no trouble, no problem.
Right.
But for a Rohingya
Mhm.
to show up in a church,
Mhm.
people would be like, "Hey, what are you doing here? You're not allowed to be here."
yes, the people in the church would
Mhm.
definitely not like that. You are a Christian up to the boundary of your people
Mhm.
group's state or county or whatever. And, Myanmar is very interesting in that there's not a lot of places in the world where you have an institutionalized church that's been around for a couple hundred years. I think Myanmar has like the third largest number of Baptists in the world. There's not many places where you have that degree of quote unquote Christianity and institutionalized church, but yet in your literally in your backyard
Mhm.
have unreached people groups, and no one is going to engage them out of those churches. And
Mhm.
that's the reason behind that is multifactorial, but in general it's this people group. I'm responsible for my people group's belief, and to go to another people group is not necessarily something that
It's a very
is
cultural concept. It's a very
correct.
cultural idea. The Shan people take care of the Shan, the Palong take care of the Palong. I mean, they've never, from their beginning of their history, have felt the responsibility or been taught. Like, it's not nationalism, like, "Oh, we're going to protect Myanmar." It's, we take care of our
Hmm.
own and we take care. And so you see that even in the church, it's come into the church. And so it's not oh, the church messed up. It's, well, the church just continue to act like the culture around it, and they haven't broken that barrier. And
But
so,
what's beautiful is when people hear the
yeah.
gospel and they hear
Mhm.
the gospel of the kingdom. Like our house church has
Mhm.
four different people groups,
Mhm.
four different languages represented, being unified under, one spirit under
Yeah.
Christ. And that's the only thing that bridges those
Yes.
gaps. It's not political, referendums. It's not even a war. I mean, even in the middle of the war that's going on right now, there
Mhm.
is still division among people groups, even though there is seemingly a common enemy. There is still
Mhm.
division among those people groups. So Jesus is the only thing that's going to unite people.
And I would think that's really an amazing witness for you within your little congregation to have four different people groups. I imagine the neighbors and the people who are seeing that are like, why are you bringing these people together? You're just going to cause trouble."
That's been part of the persecution that each of the people groups have experienced. And so we have a young lady she's a Shan lady. She's a Buddhist background believer, and when she became a believer, she was attacked and beaten by her mother, because this
Wow.
is betraying your people group. Because to be Shan is to be Buddhist, and so now you've basically, you have abandoned your cultural identity, and you have betrayed your own people to follow this Jesus. And at the beginning, it was tolerated for her to come and study with us because we're the foreigners. So we can be neutral. Everyone wants to know about the foreigners. You can go learn it, but you can't join that religion. Everyone views it just as a religion. They don't understand it is a relationship. And
Hmm.
so you had her being beaten by her mom, and then over the course of the past 5 years, she's gotten to share with her mother. And 2 months ago, she got to baptize her mom
Wow.
into the faith. And so her mother is now experiencing that persecution herself. But she finally came to the point where it's like, you've suffered, you, my daughter, have suffered all of this persecution, and yet you still keep coming back, and you're still being kind to us, and you're still there for me when I need your help. And you're still, man, you're learning how to love your husband, which is the way that we love as Christ followers, is just different than the rest of the world. And you're loving your son. You're not physically abusing your son. Like, just on and on and on, just seeing the difference in her. And then you got our Kachin lady and a guy who came out of a nominal Christian background. So they grew up in the church, but they were not taught to have a relationship with Christ. They were just taught, because you're Kachin, you're Christian. Done. Well, the Kachin man was beating his wife. He's saying he's a Christian, but he's going home and
Right.
beating his wife and their brother and sister, the Kachin man and woman, their brother and sister. And so the woman was also going home and beating her non-believing husband. And
Wow.
so they're just a domestic abuse that happened. But they've, over the past 4 years, have also truly understood a relationship with Christ. They're following him now. No more domestic abuse. The wife of the man is a believer now, and the husband of the Kachin woman, the husband was being beaten. He is now coming to study with us on occasion. He's like, I'm coming because I just don't understand. Why is she different? Like she doesn't cuss at me anymore. She even said she loved me the other day. This is really strange. Like, he was like, what is going on over here? So those have, like, just like you're saying, that the witness that they're having in their community because of their heart change has come. But it's been significant persecution. Families do so, not only physical, but just shunning of the family. They kick them out of their houses, kick them out of their village. You're not part of us anymore. That has been difficult.
We all should not be surprised about the fiery trials that we have to endure. Jesus promises persecution. And so I think everybody we share the gospel with, it is prudent for them to know that, hey, you're going to receive this and there's persecution. Most people in Myanmar are going to know that there's persecution to come, but we make sure that that is part of our gospel of, like, will you accept him, knowing that this could wait, is likely going to be happening on the other side. And
so that's even in the evangelism process. You're saying, yes, we want you to follow Jesus, and yes, it is going to cost you.
yes. We celebrate decisions of faith. We celebrate baptisms. If it is possible, we celebrate more when those people who have been persecuted are strengthened in their faith, are come out the other end stronger in their faith. Because that, it's not making a decision or being baptized that tends to make people fall away. It is, once they hit that persecution point, they're just going to be like, I'm out of here. And so when people get through that,
and we've seen a lot of that. We've seen a lot that have wanted to come in. They want the good things of Christ, but they're not willing to accept the hardship that comes with it. And so we've seen several fall away. So whenever they stay and they stick it out, man, that we get excited. We're so sad for them. We want it to stop, but we're also like, we know their faith is true, is genuine.
So and as far as persecution, there are sources of persecution, which, this sounds right. The Herods and the Pilates, the people out there who are affiliated with the government, affiliated with the military, who are just staunch, very proactive, almost militaristic Buddhist people, which I know that sounds counterintuitive, but there is a right-wing militaristic Buddhist presence in Myanmar, very violent. So those are the areas you expect persecution. You're like, yeah, I totally get that. The thing that blindsides us is when we have some of these unhealthy church systems threatening these young believers who are going out and sharing the good news. You have the church system persecuting them, saying, we're going to have the police come and arrest you because you do not have a degree. You do not have seminary training to be able to do this. You should not be out there sharing with anybody. And that's the persecution that hurts. I mean, that is unexpected.
We don't talk a lot about politics on VOM Radio, but what has happened since the coup in 2021? What has that meant? Has that changed anything from a religious freedom standpoint, or is it kind of more of the same? And again, we're not going to dive deep into this, but just kind of give our listeners an understanding of what that has meant.
The coup in 21 was an overthrow of a fledgling democratic state. We lived under that democratic era where we started to see more systems in place. We started to see, hey, I know that for Americans, the DMV is kind of like the pinnacle of frustration, but it makes the Myanmar system look amazing. Like the DMV
is amazing.
Yeah, the DMV, Myanmar system makes the DMV look amazing. But during that 4 or 5 years of the fledgling democratic state, Myanmar became more of a DMV. Like, hey, if you want to do this, then you need to do these 5 things. It became more bullet pointed, became more obvious of what you needed to continue your platform.
They had more religious freedom.
There
They
was
even
a little
had
bit
more
more religious
rights
freedom.
for the minorities, trying to include the minorities from the outside states into things. They were working for that. It wasn't perfect, but they were working towards that.
Yep. And so the systems were beginning to get in place. But then when the coup happened, I mean, I feel like, especially the younger generation, they saw their future go away. So you see people take to the streets. You see people start protests, like thousands, tens of thousands of people across the country go out and protest. And, we're not out there, but we're definitely just loving on people who are hurting in the middle of that, and challenging people to think, how is God's kingdom, how are we gonna take his kingdom out in the midst of this. As far as from the political side of things, once the coup happened, you go from bullet point, this is how you do things, to cash is king. So in order to move the needle, in order to continue the platform, in order to get things done, you just have to know the right person and pay the right person. And so it became, before we would have to turn in documents and things, and now, especially over the past year, it's been, hey, we're doing all this work for you and your family to continue to stay in Myanmar. Why don't you give us a little something? It became under the table, and then it just became outright above the table. Yeah.
But to be able to do anything, it's not just for us.
Yeah, anything.
But for any of our disciples needing to get a new ID card, for our people that we work with to be able to get passports, so anything, there's no good way to do it. It just became a bribe system.
And slowly we've seen the value of the Myanmar currency. I think when the coup happened, it was 1,800 Myanmar chat to the dollar, and now it's double that. And so just the price of everything's gone up, wartime economy, everything's, things are in short supply, high demand.
So specifically for, I think, religious freedom and things, it has lessened. There's less religious freedom and there's more fear. And so we've seen specifically an uprise in churches who they've had a stable relationship with the Buddhist, the military, because they've just paid the money, done what they've been asked to do, stayed out of the way, don't talk about Jesus with other people. But I think out of their fear, they're afraid that anyone else who is out sharing the good news in the community could cause that stability to go away. And so there's more threats on, if you keep doing this, we're going to turn you in. There's more threats on, well, if you're not going to just be part of our membership and you're going to keep talking about Jesus, like, we're going to cut ties with you. We're going to report you. My perception is that it's out of fear that they don't want those people to be rocking the boat. But it's not of Christ. That's not honoring to him. And so we've seen more of that. And again, it's different in different areas. It depends on the local, who's in charge of that military base at this time and this police at this time. In our area, even though there have been more threats, there's no policemen around. They've deserted or they've been shipped off somewhere else. And so it's scary to have people come at you with those threats. I mean, even Luke was threatened with arrest and imprisonment for different things over time, but there was no one around to arrest him. But it's scary. You don't want to hear that. And you're like, well, could they? Could you find someone? And so the house church right now is they're suffering under those increased amount of threats and just everything they do. They're trying to do these things for the good of those around them, for the good of the neighbors, not only just sharing, but offering what medical care that they can, offering what gifts they can. And you have especially the local church comes to them with these threats of arrest and imprisonment.
I hope you'll be praying for Luke and Kate and for believers who are still in Myanmar working to build God's kingdom in a country where it feels like nothing is stable. Please pray that God will provide for them, will keep them safe, and will give them opportunities to share the gospel, even in such difficult circumstances. I'm so glad we could bring you this conversation from a place where prayer is so needed. Even right now, right at this moment, there are Christians in Myanmar who need our prayers. That's what we aim to do every week here on the Voice of the Martyrs Radio. If you missed any of this conversation, you can hear it again at vomradio.net. You can also find Voice of the Martyrs Radio wherever you listen to podcasts, and you may want to share a link. There may be a Christian friend who will help you pray for our brothers and sisters in Myanmar. Share a link with them to this conversation. Next week, we're going to hear part 2 of this conversation with Luke and Kate. Have you ever felt like you're just waiting on the Lord? You're kind of stuck and saying, Lord, okay, what's next? I'll do it, but just tell me what it is. Luke and Kate have learned to wait on the Lord's timing. They are in a position of waiting right now to see what the Lord has next for them. I know you'll be blessed by their insights about that, so please be back with us next week right here on the Voice of the Martyrs Radio Network.